You've tamed the voices in your head. You've put your courage to the test. Laid all your doubts to rest.
Hi everyone, welcome from Your Intuition Queen to a new episode of Intuitive Queens podcast. Today, I have the pleasure to have with me an amazing singer. Her name is Lindsey Ray, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So for everybody watching and listening, you guys have no idea how excited I am to have Lindsey here because I've been listening to her on repeat because her music is so fantastic. But before I say anything else, I'm going to ask Lindsey to tell us a little bit about how your story starts. How did you get into music, and a little bit more about you?
Okay. Well, it started really, really young for me. So I grew up in a really musical family, and at the age of, I don't know, I think like 5, I knew I wanted to be a singer. So for years, I kind of all growing up, I knew I was going to probably be in music. But I didn't like formally really get into it until I was about 25. I mean, before that, I was doing things where like I would travel back and forth to New York City to work with producers in different studios and stuff. And I was a local musician in my hometown in Maine and did that for like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. I was a wedding singer too. I was in my
nice.
So I kind of like did a bunch of things and then started writing songs at the age of 23. And I actually put a video of myself performing one of my songs on MySpace when I was on
MySpace. That seems like, oh my god, that's ages ago.
I know. And this label saw it and reached out to me and flew me to New York and met with me. And then that was the first record deal that I signed, or actually the only record deal that I signed. It was this small little indie label out of New York. And that kind of jump-started my career in a more professional way, I guess I would say. That's when I moved to Los Angeles from Maine and kind of got into what I'm doing now.
Okay, so when you said you were, you knew it when you were 5, how was for you when you went to school? How did that, because you started, I don't want to say late, but you hear singers say, oh, I started when I was 10 to 12, 15. So how was for you in terms of like you went to school? Were there any expectations that you to become something or something else? And
I think there kind of were, yeah, because well, I talked about it a lot, so I definitely announced at a young age to my peers, like, this is something I'm going to do. And when I was 10 years old, I was in a play that was in my local hometown. It was Annie, the Annie Broadway sort of production, but just at a small, local production of it. But I was Annie, and that was the first time that I ever performed publicly. And I'm from a really small town, so like everybody came to that show when it on. So when I went to school in junior high, everybody kind of knew me as Annie. They had all seen the play the year before when we were in 5th grade. So, so yeah, I did feel a sense of like everyone around me kind of, saw me as, I don't know, a performer, I guess, or that I was going to do, or that I had big dreams, And even at the age of 13, actually, there was a talent competition that I joined or entered in Los Angeles, and my small town raised a bunch of money for me to be able to go and do that.
Oh, that's
amazing. I had a lot of support from my community and a lot of people expecting big things of me. And it's funny because in some ways I feel like I've let them down a little because I didn't really do what I think they all thought I was going to do, but I still received tons of support from them, and everyone, tells me how proud they are of just, how well I've done so far. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I discovered you because you're on the soundtrack of a TV show on Netflix, which is called Selling Sunset, and I went crazy for you. So. And I am on the other side, like I'm here in London, so clearly you're doing something absolutely right. Yay! But you were telling me yesterday about how you started off and how everything, like how you always knew, even when circumstances were not necessarily good for you. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I knew at a really young age what I wanted to do. And now that I'm older and looking back at that, I realize how fortunate I am for that, because so many people, it's hard to find whatever your passion is. I found it really, really young. Um, and yeah, I mean, I guess along the way, there were roadblocks in the sense that, I mean, I was from a really small town in Maine. I didn't really have any connections to the entertainment industry in any way. So who knew how I was going to do this, you know? So along the way, I had a lot of people that encouraged me to have a backup plan and to make sure I went to college and did all the kind of normal things that kids do. Not because they didn't think I was talented, but I think they wanted to protect me, and they wanted to make sure that I, didn't end up broke and homeless singing on the street. But that is where my intuition came in, because every time I had to make a really hard life decision, like, do I go to college or do I take the more riskier route? I always just checked in with myself and just did what my gut told me to do. And I luckily feel like I made a lot of really good decisions. I didn't go to college, and instead that's when I became a wedding singer and started playing locally in local bands and stuff. And that was kind of college for me in a sense, because I learned a lot about music. I mean, it was education. I learned about performing. I learned about playing with a band. And I played, as a wedding singer, I sang all genres of music. I mean, I was doing jazz standards. I was singing Aretha Franklin songs, Alicia Keys, whatever was current at the time. So in a lot of ways, that was my education, and then I had mentioned to you yesterday, one of the biggest things for me was at the age of 18, I was pursuing a record deal, and I was really unhappy with the kind of music I was making at the time. And the people I was working with had convinced me to dye my hair this orange color, which is really awful. And we didn't use my name because, Lindsey is kind of a common name. So they were calling me Lynx at the time. And it was this whole thing that was, I didn't know anything about how it worked. So I was just trusting these people that this is what I have to do in order to have the career that I want. But it didn't feel right in my gut,
Right.
That intuitive thing. I just knew, I was like, this is not the dream. This isn't what I dreamt about all those years in my bedroom. And if this is the dream, then I don't think I want it anymore. Like this, I don't want to be inauthentic. I don't want to have to pretend to be something that I'm not in order to succeed. That just didn't make any sense to me. So I had a record deal on the table from a big company. And my dad actually was driving me to New York City, and I was about to possibly sign this deal. And we drove all the way from Maine we got to the Hudson River in New York. So we were driving probably already for 7 or 8 hours at that point.
Wow.
And I broke down in tears, and my dad pulled off to the side of the road, and I just vented everything to him. And I said, this isn't the thing. I don't want to do this. And I felt like I was letting everybody down, especially in my hometown, and all the people, all those years of people encouraging me and believing in me and raising money for me to go to these talent competitions. And especially my father, he had spent so much time and effort trying to help me reach my goal. And but I told him, I was like, this isn't right. This isn't how I want to do it. And luckily he was incredibly supportive and understood. And he said, I'll turn the car around right now. And we did. And we drove home, and I called the people I was working with and said, I'm sorry, but this isn't going to work for me. And they said, you're ruining your chances. This is your one shot. You'll never make it in this business. You have to do this. And I just knew that they were wrong. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew that, no, that's not how it's going to work. And then I spent all those years, I spent maybe the next 3 years playing in my hometown, doing the wedding singer thing and kind of licking my wounds and getting over it. And then I started writing my own songs at 23. And that was when everything started to sort of shift, and I took a little more control over it at that time.
That's amazing, because first of all, I guess that like as every singer, you are waiting for the moment in which the big record label it wants to sign you up.
Yeah.
And also kudos to you for your gut, because you were very young, and to listen to yourself and to listen to what was going on within you, and be able to say this doesn't work for me, and have the courage to say sorry guys, no, and not be afraid when they told you this is your only shot, you're never gonna make it. I think that for your age and for the kind of situation that you were in front of, I think that's extremely courageous.
Yeah, it was really scary. I remember being really, really heartbroken. Not just because I knew I had disappointed the people that were working with me and trying to get me the record deal in the first place. I think for them, it felt like a slap in the face. Like, we've done all of this for you and now you're turning it down. So it was hard on a lot of levels, but, and also there was the possibility that maybe they were right. And maybe that was my only shot. And I had to sit with that. And I had to accept the fact that I was choosing perhaps to not have this career that I wanted. But at the end of the day, I knew I would always be creative. I knew I was always going to sing. I played piano. I was already doing that. So I don't know. I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I knew I'd still be able to do what I loved, whether it became, the thing that paid the bills or not. I knew I was going to be able to do it, and I did. And somehow, miraculously, it all worked out. I mean, when I look back now, from where I am now, and I look back, it feels like a movie. It's incredible. I don't even quite understand how I went from there to here. I mean, so many things have happened, but I never could have predicted any of it. I'm not in a place right now that I envisioned myself being in, but I'm so happy with where I am. It worked out differently, I guess, is what I'm saying, than what I thought I wanted. But I think I ended up right where I'm supposed to be, because I'm very, very fulfilled. And what more can you ask for, really?
Amazing. Oh, it's amazing. I love your story. I think it's so fantastic, having that inner knowing that it doesn't matter what people say, and it doesn't matter if you feel like you're missing your big chance. When you know, and I feel that from what you said, the moment you start to channel your energy and write your own songs, that's when everything kind of started to align, and you started to move forward in what you were supposed to do.
Yeah, I think the more I started to trust my own instincts, really, the more things, and really I would say that's how I've managed my entire career up to this point, because, I signed that deal with an indie label when I was 24, moved to Los Angeles. And not very long into that deal, I realized this isn't a very good situation. And once again, I was unfulfilled, and I was making music that I was sort of doing what I thought I had to do in order to fit in some sort of lane in the business. And when it wasn't working, I pulled the plug on that too. I mean, I've done that. I've basically built these things in my life, built these towers up, and then I just knock them down, and I'm like, nah, that's not working. And I start
New beginnings. I love that. I think, the fact that you know what you want allows you to know that when you signed up with the record label was a good thing, but moving forward, then it became something that was not what you wanted, and you were able to say, I need to change this. And so I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, the fear of, and what if no one is ever gonna sign me up, or what if I'm never gonna be able to make my music how I want and be successful, and they stay where they are, be music or career or relationship. It's that fear of the unknown and not believing in yourself, really.
Well, and fear of change, right? I mean, I guess the fear of change is the fact that you're afraid of the unknown, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You don't know what the next thing's going to be, and sometimes it feels safer to just stay where you are, even if you're unhappy, because reaching for something else is really scary. But well, I can be an example of the fact that it's worth it. It is uncomfortable and it is scary, but where along the line you always figure it out, I find, at
Mm.
least for me. Like I feel like every time I've like taken a leap of faith, I've landed on my feet, and I don't even know how. I just have. It's like when you have no other option, you
Yeah.
figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's just, yeah, it's worth it, because I think life is really short, and I just don't think anybody needs to sit around in a place where they're unhappy or unfulfilled. I think we should always be chasing the next thing that fulfills us. And I think it evolves and changes. Like for
Yeah.
me, what I'm doing right now today, realistically, will I be doing this forever? Probably not. I mean, at some point, this is going to become stale for me, and I'm going to want something else. But now that I've sort of rebuilt myself, or whatever, however you want to call it, enough times, I'm not scared of that anymore. It kind of excites me now. So now I'm like,
Yay.
for a time, and then we'll see where I go.
I love this. I love this. And I think that's the thing. When you have the courage to go and chase your dreams, and yes, you might have some tower moments that, not necessarily are because you have decided that you want to. I feel that there are certain situations that happen to you because you are on the wrong path, and they happen so you move to the right path. And some certain situations where all of a sudden you have a moment, you're like, wait a minute, this is no longer for me, and you make the decision, and maybe it's less painful because you feel you have more control over it. But then at the end of the day, once you do that two more times, then, as you said, you kind of know what's going on, so you can manage yourself, and you're no longer scared.
Yeah, well, and I think I was saying this to you yesterday too. I think that the more you practice that, because it is a practice, we had talked about that, like just getting, everything's a practice. Mindfulness is a practice, being self-aware, understanding why you feel the way you do, or why you're responding to life the way you are. But the more you practice all of those things, yeah, I mean, you build those muscles, so you can get really good at change or reinventing yourself if you practice it. And the same thing with intuition. I mean, when I was younger, I can think of a million examples where my intuition said, oh, you should do this, or make sure you check that, or whatever it is, and then you don't do it, and then you look back and go, I knew that, like something told me to do that, but I ignored it. And so then I started to teach myself, well, I'm going to listen to that little voice. And the more you do that and it works out, the more then you trust
You want to
yourself.
do it, yeah.
When it happens and you go, no, I've been here, and I know that this is, I don't know why, but I'm going to trust this.
Yes.
And I mean, it's hard for me too, because sometimes like I guess we call it intuition, right? But there's a part of me that also feels very protected in some way. Like I don't know if it's angels, or if it's my spirit guides, or what it is, but I've always felt like I wasn't alone,
Yeah.
And I always feel like when I am, still enough to sort of listen to that voice, or whatever that guidance is, it feels like divine guidance in some way. And I don't know, I think it is, because every time I've listened to it, things have opened up for me in my life in a way that I wouldn't have been able to make happen if I was trying to force it.
Yeah. I agree with you. I feel there is some sort of, call it whatever it is that makes sense for you, but some force that guides you. And when you surrender, you allow yourself to just be still and be like, okay, I have taken action A, B, and now I don't know what else to do. Help me out, or send me a sign, tell me what to do. That is not necessarily you're gonna hear someone telling you what to do,
right?
But it might be, you talk to someone, that person says something that makes you think, and you have an idea, or you hear a song, or there are so many different ways that messages come to you, and they're there to tell you this is where you need to go. And I don't think we are alone, but we need to learn that. It's something that together with trusting yourself, that whenever you get that messages, they are the right one, and that comes with, as you said earlier, practice. It's so true. I was very intuitive. I always been very intuitive, but when I started to follow my intuition, when I was making big decisions, and they will turn up in the best way possible, and even better that I could ever imagine, then it's when I started to be like, oh, but wait. To me, it's always been more about, this makes me feel better rather than this. This is logically better, but this makes me feel better. And so I will go for the feel better most of the times, and it will work out. And that's when I started to be like, okay, I just need to do more of this. I know that people have something to say, maybe more experience in something, but something within me is telling me this way. So it is trusting yourself, that you know the answer already.
Yeah, or even like when you say the signs, right? Like, because somebody else might see something that you see, and to them it's not a sign of anything. I feel like, because I've had these conversations with people before where they're like, oh, this all sounds so hokey pokey, and it's like you're making it something that it's not, maybe, right? But I guess I always think of it as the same thing with like tarot cards or pulling a card or anything that you take as a message. I feel like the way you respond to seeing something or to a card or whatever it is, if you are given a sense of some sort of message from that, then I think that's what that's meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that it matters how or why. It's just that if it gives you a sense of knowing of, oh, I think I should do this, or oh, this resonates with me in this way, then I think that's exactly what it was meant to serve. And that's what's so cool about those things, is I just think being open to it and being willing to see things in that way, I guess, can do wonders for you in your life, because it feel very guided in a way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not being afraid also, you know, that maybe sometimes, especially when you're going through a difficult moment, you might receive a message that is not exactly what you want to hear. But that message has such a meaning for you. And if you're open, you understand why that message is there for you. If you're not, you're going to be scared and be like, oh, no, this is not, no, of course, this is not for me. But, you know, as you said, it depends on the perception and how open you are to want to listen and believe that there is something bigger than us that is guiding us somehow. Could be someone that passed on, or could be angels, or the universe, God, whatever everybody think is resonating with them. But there is some sort of something that whenever we're stuck guides us somehow. And sometimes it's, you know, it's just a person. It's a friend, or, you know, maybe we're having this conversation today and you say something and someone's listening. It's like, oh my God, that what she said just resonated with me. She just said what I needed to hear, you know. And we have all these big thoughts about intuition, how messages come along, but I feel that it just be open, and they come in so many different ways. So just take whatever resonates, and then if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate.
Yeah, and it can work, obviously, not even just in the sense that you see a sign or something and it's like, oh, I should now make this choice or go this way. But in terms of like when you're meeting new people, right? Like sometimes you get that feeling about somebody and they haven't done anything yet that is any good reason for you to maybe not trust them, but you just innately sort of have this sense of, I don't know, like something's off here. I've had that a lot in my career too, where I've had people that have wanted to sign me to publishing deals or different things. And it all, at face value, it all looks really good and shiny and nice, but there's like something that makes me think, I don't know, something feels off about this person. I don't know what it is. I don't feel like they're being authentic or genuine, you know? And every time I have that thought, eventually down the line, something will happen where they'll sort of reveal their true selves, or like something will happen where I'm like, I knew it. I knew you didn't have my best interest in mind. And luckily, I feel like I've been pretty good. I mean, obviously, I've made plenty of mistakes, but I've always learned from those too. But
Yeah, who doesn't? So I think like I call myself the intuition queen, and obviously intuition is a big thing, and it's something that I teach my clients. But don't think I never get stuck in my head.
yeah.
Don't think that I never get like attached to an outcome because I decided that I want to achieve this, and then I at some point I either get overwhelmed because I have too much to do, or I get stuck because I don't feel I should be there. I should be further, and then I start to get into my head, oh, why I'm not there. And
Mhm.
when that happens, I remind myself, okay, calm down, breathe, and I have my techniques like nature or things, meditation and stuff, because I know that it just, we're human, and it's just normal that whenever we have things going on, maybe something can be exterior, something can be personal, or just you're not happy where you are, and you start thinking, oh, I shouldn't be here, I should be further, and you get into your head a lot.
Mhm.
um, but it's knowing how to get back to yourself, and how to really trust that everything, you are exactly where you are, where you
Mhm.
need to be, and everything is going in the right direction, because if it's not, something's going to happen.
Are you familiar with Iyanla Van Sant?
No.
She she has there's she's a friend of Oprah's, and she used to be on the Oprah show sometimes, and she would sort of like counsel people on different scenarios in their life. But anyway, I saw this interview with her years ago where she talked about the power of being able to say thank you when you're suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, when I saw that interview, I was brokenhearted. I was going through a breakup, and I was just devastated. And I remember her saying that, and I thought, oh gosh, that's so powerful, because really what you're doing is, even though you're so sad and you feel so lost and so, hopeless, if you can say thank you and recognize for a second that there must be a reason it's happening, and that there's something of value that will
Yeah.
come from it, or from that suffering. And I just remember like laying in bed crying some nights and going, thank you. I was like, this is so, and then I would laugh, and it would make me laugh. And I was like, I am a mess. If anyone saw me right now, they'd be like, this lady is crazy. But it really helped me through that hard time where I was scared. I didn't know what my future was. I didn't even know what I wanted it to be, because really I just wanted this person to be in my life, and they weren't, and I felt rejected. I mean, my gosh, it triggered like all my wounds from, whatever they are from childhood. And but saying thank you, and recognizing that it was somehow going to be okay, because I'm still here. And if I'm
Yeah.
still here, then there must be a reason. And there
Yeah.
must be something that I'm, you know, some way that I'm going to come out of this that's going to make sense someday. And
Yeah.
now I'm far removed from that. That was years ago. But anyway, I don't know why I felt compelled to share that. I don't know if somebody listening or watching will
Yeah,
hear that.
no, I think it's true. And I personally experienced that on a couple of occasions, one very recently. And the biggest one, and the one that it's more powerful to me, was when my dad passed away 5 years ago. And I think about maybe a year and a half, two, after he passed, I started saying thank you, because that's like, it really, from that moment, that's when I started to make my dream come true, and I started, like, my awakening started.
Mm.
It's kind of like, yeah, I knew things before. I knew I wanted to be a coach, but I wasn't taking any action. And from that moment on, it's kind of like a switch went on for me. And I just never looked back, and I just kept moving forward and forward and forward. And I had this conversation with a lot of people, and they were shocked, like, are you really saying thank you to your dad? And well, we all have to die at some point. And I think, we have soul contracts with other people. And so he must have, completed his
Mm.
and release ours, because that propelled me to really change my life in big, big ways. And so now I'm like, thank you, because I never realized that I was putting myself in a box, although that's not what I wanted. I don't want to be in a box, and I don't want to be put in a box, but I was doing that to myself for fear, and that really pushed me forward. It took me time to be able to understand and realize that, but I do believe that's true. After you go through your moment, there is always something that happens for, they say it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Yes.
And I have so many stories on the podcast, like pretty much all of my guests have a story like this, where something not pleasant happened to them, either terrible or just not nice, happened to them, and from that moment their life changed, and now they're doing something that, but if they didn't have that moment, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing right now. And so it's impossible for us to have such a big vision in terms of like really seeing what's gonna happen in the next 5-10 years. You can have dreams, that doesn't mean you're gonna achieve them. But I think that all those big events that happen for you are there to tell you, hey, this is the wrong path, let's move you this way.
Yeah.
And I also think, we have to go through our own lessons and our own healing. And it's not nice, so sometimes it's very painful, but that frees us once we go through it and we manage to understand why that happened to us.
Yeah, I have a really similar story actually. We hadn't talked about this, but my father passed away when I was 25,
Oh, wow.
right before I moved from Maine to LA. So I I was a late bloomer in a lot of ways in my career. Like I said, I spent, the first 25 years of my life living in a small town in Maine and not really doing anything else. And granted, those last 3 years, my father was sick and I was taking care of him. So I wouldn't have left him. But once he passed away, it was almost like a switch went off or something, where I said, okay, well, there's nothing left for me here now. And so, we had the funeral and packed up his stuff and did whatever we had to do. And then I packed my bags and I flew to Los Angeles, and didn't know what the future was going to hold, but I knew I was going to go after it even harder than I ever had.
Oh, yeah.
In honor of him, really. And, because of all the time he had spent trying to help me over the years. And also, I mean, when I look back on it, like I feel like I was so close with my dad, and he was such I don't know, he was everything to me. He was my security. He just made me feel loved and safe and all these things. So I'm not sure if he was still alive, it would have been, I'm just saying it would have been really hard for me to leave him. It would have been very hard for me to move across the country and pursue this dream and be that far away from him. I don't know. I was really attached to him. So in some way, it sounds bad to say that, but it almost feels like he had to be gone in order for me to really be free enough to like do all the things that I was meant to do with my life. And yeah, I mean, that was the hardest thing I've ever been through, for sure. Like way harder than breakups.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, I mean, but it definitely gave me a new sense of purpose, and everything that I do, I do, and I think about him, and I think about honoring him and making him proud. And also at a young age, it gave me a real sense of mortality and how fast life is. And I just realized I really want to do some things while I'm here, and I don't want to sit around and dream about it. I want to do something about it.
Exactly. That was happening to me. Yeah, it's that thing of like, wow, this happened to me, because you never expected something's gonna happen to you like that. Like you never expect your family, your beloved will die, but that really, as you said, like changes your perception of what matters and what not, who should be around you, what shouldn't, and why you're not making your dreams come true. And so if you're not, you kind of have this thing for which, like, to me was very much about, if something happens to my mom tomorrow, I've done nothing. I've been saying things, but I've done absolutely nothing, and I have created nothing for my life. So because, you know, something could happen to my mom tomorrow, you know, who knows? And so that kind of fear triggered me to really push forward and be like, no, I am going to make this happen, and I don't care how long it takes. It's just gonna have to happen. I have this vision of me doing this and that, and I don't know, I just have to start from somewhere. And that's when I signed up to the coaching course, and I never stopped. I never looked back. And but it's that now I know that is my purpose, and now I feel this is like I couldn't do anything else. But I didn't know that before, and I really needed a kick and bum and be like, go, make your life happen. Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting that you said the thing about soul contracts too, because I very much believe in all. Have you read the book Journey of the Souls?
No.
It's so good. It's Michael Newton. He's since passed away, but he's a hypnotherapist that was doing past life regressions on people. And I know there's a lot of books and things like that. But he has his own institute, the Michael Newton Institute of, I don't know what it's called, but that's where people who learn to do this same technique, like they go and they study under him, or now of course they just study with his whatever he left behind. But it talks a lot about, I read it when I was maybe 21 or 22, but it talked a lot about soul contracts and all of those things. And I don't know, when I read it, it all rang so true to me. And I felt like when my dad did pass away, I had already read that book. And so I sort of had this sense of like, well, that was the way it was supposed to be. Instead of being angry about it and going, why did this happen? It's like, well, he fulfilled whatever it was he was here to do. And however that now affects my brother and sister and I and my mom and whoever else in the world, it affects us in the way that it was supposed to, which I think is so beautiful, right? It's like we're all just one person, but the ripple effect of how we affect everybody around us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So big and profound. And so, I don't know. Yeah, I believe in that stuff big time. And I guess I'm just mentioning that because for anyone listening that maybe feels scared or discouraged or any of those things, it's okay, you know? Yeah. And everyone feels that. And I still feel that sometimes. I've felt it a ton in my life. I am somebody who runs sort of high on anxiety. I've worked on it. I'm a lot better. I have tools, like you said, like meditation or different, walking in nature, petting my dog, or whatever I do, or writing, making music. But I don't want to, I just don't want to give the impression that it's like you figure this out and then everything's easy. It's like, it's not.
No.
Hard. And my life is still challenging, and my career is still challenging in several ways. And I just have a sense now that I just trust that I'll figure it out. I think at the end of the day, and that I'm willing to accept the fact that it may turn out differently than my ideal expectation of what I want it to be. But I trust that however it works out is probably the way it should.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I really just want to be able to make music. And as long as I'm able to do that, I feel like I'm winning.
Yay. Well, let's talk about your music now. Oh my God. I absolutely love this conversation with you. And I love that you're so in tune with yourself and with the universe, really, because I feel that life is so much easier when you learn and you understand, because it's really understanding yourself a little bit more. And, even with the soul contracts, once you understand that, you know it, you accept it, you can move on slightly quicker and in a different way. It's more like you move on in a more peaceful way. I'm not saying there is no pain, and because that's
a little less suffering.
But it's like you have a better understanding. Okay, like it had to happen. Now you just focus on how to move forward and how to get out of that pain and go back to what matters for you. So yeah, it's so beautiful that you mentioned that. Yeah. All right. So you are a singer, but you're not just one singer, and I so love this about you because I have never heard someone playing three different personas. So tell us about it because you are the best person to explain this.
Well, so I'm Lindsey. That's who I really am. And I made music as Lindsey Ray for years and did that, and then kind of got bored with it. And I wanted to create different types of music, different genres, I guess. And I didn't like the idea of settling for one lane and deciding, well, this is what I sound like as an artist. And in fact, that was also a part of what made signing record deals in the past scary to me, because every time, you know, record labels, they want to help you become the thing that you think that you are, really ideally, but I could never decide what one thing I was.
Right.
Which at one time in my life made me wonder whether I even was an artist. So I went through a period of time in my late 20s where I didn't make my own music. I just wrote songs for other artists and focused on doing that because I thought that must be what I'm supposed to do. And somewhere along the line, I just started getting tired of that, and once again kind of veered back and started writing my own songs again and releasing them. And that was when the Rayelle project was sort of born, if you will. I really just started experimenting with making music for fun again,
Right.
and not really worrying about whether radio would like it or whether some big name artist would want to cut it or anything like that. You know, I just kind of wanted to have fun, and I started making a lot of different types of music, and I honestly don't remember which one came first. It might have been Olly Anna, but anyway, along the way, I started realizing that I had different sounds of my voice that I was using depending on the song I was writing, different approaches, and they really didn't sound like one person. So I ended up creating 3 different personas and artist projects. That way I didn't really have to settle on one. And so when I do my Olly Anna thing, it's a little bit more urban, a little bit more hip hop. But it's not really hip hop. I don't really even know what to call it. It's just it's just this other thing. Like, instead of singing, I'm kind of rapping a lot of the time. I don't know. And then Rayelle is sort of more like pop rock sometimes, and it's dancey and it's poppy and it's fun and it's just very energetic. And then just recently in the last year, I started making Lindsey Ray music again and kind of getting back to where I started at the piano. And I've written some, you know, just kind of slower, more soulful, heartfelt piano ballads. And so, yeah, so right now, those are the 3 I'm working with. It's a little unorthodox for sure, like you said. I don't really know anybody else who does this either. And again, if you had told me 5 years ago that I'd be doing this, I would have laughed and thought it was hilarious. But here I am, and I'm enjoying it.
I think it's beautiful, and I think it's really clever because I think, like, as someone that really loves music, I always like to watch interviews and follow the artist a little bit more behind the scene, not just what the music is, because I am obsessed with listening to other people's stories. And so for me also, it's a way to connect even more to the artist that I like. And this is something that they always say, that, you know, when they want to create different kind of music, if they have decided to be one artist, then it's very difficult, and the public doesn't necessarily like the change of the new album, and so they get critics. And so I've heard this conversation so many times listening to interviews of people that I love. Like, for example, one band that comes to mind is 30 Seconds to Mars. I mean, they've changed so much from the beginning, and I know that Jared Leto is always talking about how he likes to experiment and be different, and then also I think it's part of your evolution as a person. But I think that is beautiful that you have 3 personas, and whatever you feel like singing something more softer, you go with Lindsey, and otherwise you go with the other 2. And I think it's so clever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good point that you made too, because I guess there are a lot of artists that over their career, they evolve. Like think about Jewel, right? Do you remember Jewel?
Mm.
When she first came out, she was really folky. And then she did like this pop record where she had a song called Intuition that was very pop, and her fans were freaked out by it. No, people did not like that. And I felt so bad for her. I remember thinking like, oh, that's such a bummer, because she really just wants to try something else. And because she's already so uber successful at this one thing, people want her to stay that.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift is another artist where like it's worked out really well for her. I feel like she went from country to pop, and now she just put out a folk record, and she's able to do it in a way that I don't think many people have been able to. But on some level, I guess I feel like if you're really successful, it makes it harder because everybody knows you, and they know you as this one thing, and they don't want you to change. So luckily for me, I'm like kind of this, under the radar person that's never really bubbled up and been a huge thing.
Not
And
yet.
it's great. Well, I mean, I would love to. I mean, that would be amazing. But truthfully, like I've had people ask me, what would you do? Like, what if Rayelle blows up? Do you then let go of Olly and Lindsey? And I don't know. I mean, it's a hard thing. I'm not really sure, because on some level, I feel like I could, like Olly Anna songs could be Rayelle songs. They could
definitely, yeah,
be one lane, but they're so different than what I do when I do the Lindsey Ray thing. When I write like piano ballads and sing in that voice, I don't know how that could be on the same album as what I do with Rayelle. So I don't know. That's why I've chosen to keep it separate right now. And it could be the wrong move, I don't know. I'm figuring it out. But again, when we go back to intuition, it's like for whatever.
I love it. Yeah,
my
I love it.
It's okay. And that this works for me right now. So this is, it's what I'm going to keep doing until it no longer feels right.
Yeah, and I think that's what you should be doing. It's amazing, because you draw up a lot of different people, and then when they figure out that you are three different personas, they're like, oh my God, I love her music and that and that. And I think that like if one of the three personas should blow up, then I guess at that point something inside of you will tell you what to do, or maybe you will be more drawn up to just be Rayelle and be okay with that. You can never know until things happen. So
what a great problem that would be to have.
Yeah, exactly.
I welcome it. Bring me this challenge, universe.
Universe, please bring her to Europe. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I would love to come to Europe. Also, that's where most of my listeners are. I don't think I told you. When I look at my stats on Spotify, both Olly Anna and Rayelle seem to be more popular, especially in the UK and Italy too. Yes, Italian.
Well, yeah, we are party people in Italy, so we are party people in Italy. So
okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, like this podcast, I know there are a lot of people from US listening to it, but obviously there are people in UK and some people in Italy. Not necessarily everybody understands what I'm saying, but but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So how do you come up with the songs? Like, do you write a song and then you decide who it goes to, or you just know?
I just know. I know from the moment that the idea comes into my brain, or if I'm working with a producer and they're building a track, as soon as I start hearing melodies, I know which version of me it is. Because it's all about like how I'm going to approach singing the song or performing it or whatever. So whatever, like the first thing that comes to me, my first instinct is what I go with. Pretty much the first melodies that come to me. And I always write that way. Like it's music first and then melody and then lyrics. It's very rarely another order. I mean, there are exceptions, but for the most part, that's how my creative process works. But yeah, I know right away who it's for. And when I'm working with other people, they'll ask me sometimes, as we're building it, they'll say, is this Rayelle? Or, no, this is Olly Anna.
I love it.
I become like this different sort of version of myself, and they're all I was saying this to you yesterday, I mean, they all feel equally authentic to me. That might be hard to believe, I can understand that, but they are. Like when I'm Olly Anna, I feel the most powerful,
Mm-hmm.
because my Olly Anna persona is sort of like coming from a place of confidence, which doesn't come easily for me. I've
Right.
struggled a
Okay.
lot in my life. I've always been very self-conscious, and I'm really, really hard on myself. I'm a perfectionist, and it's challenging. But when I'm Olly Anna, I feel powerful, and I feel sexy, and I feel I don't know, like I can kind of
You
do
feel a
any.
badass.
I do. I kind of feel a little.
Yeah, because your songs, like both Rayelle and Olly Anna, are so badass songs. So yeah.
Thank you. Well, and I also do purposefully write those kinds of lyrics. It's, I'm making an effort to write songs that will be empowerment anthems if I can,
Mm.
or
Oh
that
yeah.
are about, like Olly and I have a song called Bounce Back that's like, just talking about, yeah, knock me down, but I'm gonna bounce back or whatever. Like the message is always positive, and
Mm.
that's the part that is really the most authentic to me too, because I'm an optimist. I always have been. I've been accused of being a rose-colored glasses girl or being naive. Like people are like, okay, like enough with the silver lining. But that is how I view stuff. And so yeah, I bring that to each of those projects in different ways. And then I guess with Rayelle, I kind of lean more into. I mean, it's sassy as well, but it's different. It's not necessarily. It's confident, but it's more playful.
Mm.
I feel more playful when I'm Rayelle. And then when I'm Lindsey, I feel like that's where I'm really digging into my sort of the depth of my soul, and kind of, that sounds so cheesy, but I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a little more like who I am when I'm with my closest friends, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah, you're very romantic as well, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I kind of am.
Yeah, that's what I felt from listening to her. Like, I just loved when you told me that you were three different personas, because I discovered you as Rayelle, and then you told me, oh, actually, and I started to listen to the other two, and I'm like, wow. But it just comes across, at least for me, what you said about each and every one of them, it really comes across, and I feel like that they all resonate with the kind of music that I like. But obviously, as you said, because Rayelle and Olly Anna are more badass and more like empowering women, like they have this kind of like strength, like, yeah, go get it, and don't let people put you down. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, Lindsey is more like, okay, well, life is beautiful, and
Yeah.
even if things happen, as you said, even if things happen, but there is always something positive around the corner. It does come across completely.
Well, that makes me happy. I'm glad that that's
Yeah.
working.
Yes.
That's good to know.
Yes. Well, maybe the listener can let us know what they think about it, and listen to her and tell her or tell me, if you feel they match, the personalities match. What do you think?
Yeah.
And that would be great to
No,
know.
I like that feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right. So, what's going on with you right now?
Well, with COVID and all the quarantining and stuff, I've had a lot of alone time,
Mm-hmm.
which has been good. I like it. I'm very happy in solitude. So I've been very creative. I've been writing lots of songs for all three of the projects. I've been digging into production more. I don't exclusively produce myself. I work with a lot of other producers, but I did start my Olly Anna project originally was just me 100%. So like my first Olly Anna, the whole record that I put out, was just, I produced, wrote, did all the stuff. So, and then I kind of stepped away from that because I started getting really busy with other people. So anyway, lately during quarantine, I've had more time now to get back to that, which really has felt like starting all over, because I was scared again. And I was like, I don't know how I even did this before. I don't even know if I remember how to do this, but, so I've been sort of conquering that fear and getting back into the driver's seat in that way. And that's been fun and challenging. And I'm also I've been going back and looking at all of the material that I've written in the last year. I have so many songs that I haven't released.
Yeah, please.
And I started getting really antsy when I read, because I write a song, and once I'm done with it, it's like I don't think about it again. It's on my computer, but I don't really, like, I don't sit around and listen to my music. And I don't know. I just, like, it's gone and there we go. And I move on. So when I kind of took stock and inventory and looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, I've got to start releasing these songs, or it's going to be overwhelming, you know? So I'm starting to release a lot of music is what I'm trying to get at. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I'm going to, you know, there'll be a lot of new music coming out the whole rest of this year. Like almost every week or every other week, or definitely every month, I'll be releasing songs from Olly Anna and Rayelle, because both of them are the projects that I have the most backlog of material to release.
Okay.
And eventually I'll release some cool new stuff with Lindsey Ray too. I have some songs that I did with a friend of mine. He's a Canadian artist, and we've written a couple of duets that are really pretty, and just acoustic guitar or piano, or I think they're both guitar actually, but like really simple stripped songs. So I'm excited to put those out at some point, and maybe I'll put it out in a form of an EP or something and say, here's an EP of Lindsey Ray featuring Marshall. I don't know quite yet how I'm going to do it, but all of that is to come, and I'm excited for it, because I just want to get this stuff out there, you know? I want people to hear it.
Yes, yes.
And if they don't like it, it's fine, because there'll be a new one in a couple weeks.
That's amazing. No, but your music is too beautiful, so we will like it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh my God, there was another question that I wanted to ask you. I got distracted by the dogs outside. In the meantime, tell us where to find you, and then I'll think about what I wanted to ask you.
Okay. Well, all three of those personas have their own websites. So there's lindseyray.com. There is iamollyanna.com, and Rayelle's is rayellemusic.com. So you can find my websites, or you can find all of them on Spotify, iTunes, pretty much any digital store that is possible. That's how I release it. So, so you can find me there. And on Instagram, I'm on Instagram for all three of them. And that's, if I had a choice, I would love for people to find me on there, because that's where I, you know, if I have a song that's coming out on a commercial or on a TV show, if I know about it in time, I always post that there. That's where I'm like doing the most updates, I guess I should say. Like sometimes I forget to update my website, and then I'm like a month late or something. But Instagram, I'm pretty much always up to date about what song is coming out next, or what I'm working on, or where you can hear me. So I would love for people to find me there. And those, you know, you can, my handles, just so you know. So it's Lindsey Ray Blue, which I know that's really bad, but Lindsey Ray Music was taken.
Aww.
And I have blue eyes, and I don't know, I went with Lindsey Ray. So that's Lindsey Ray. Rayelle is official Rayelle, and Olly Anna is I am Olly Anna. IAM Olly Anna.
You guys go, first of all, follow her on Instagram, and then immediately go listen to her, because she is fantastic. She is absolutely amazing. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't think that. So go. And she's super empowering. So if you feel down, if you feel like you need some badass music and you need to be pumped up for something important, she is the music you need to listen to. Whichever of the three.
Yeah, if you want to be introspective, listen to Lindsey Ray. If you want to feel like a badass, listen to Olly Anna. And if you just want to be happy and like go get it, Rayelle.
Yes, go. All right. So I think the last question that I wanted to ask you is, for the women listening, I think this has been such a powerful episode because of what you do and how you do it. And it really, for me, tells a lot of people to really listen to yourself and create the way that works for you, even if that has never been done by someone else before. But if you could say, give an advice to the women listening and watching, what would you say?
advice in general?
Yes.
Don't be afraid to take chances. Just do it. The worst that can happen is you fail. And failure's not that bad. It can be disappointing, but you learn from it and then you try again. Like everybody has to fail a certain number of times before you succeed. So really, it's like the idea of fear even itself is like, there's some acronym for that. I don't remember who came up with that, but it's like false evidence appearing real. Have you heard that?
Yes. Like I've heard it from Jack Canfield because I follow him, but I don't know who actually came up with that, if him or someone else.
Maybe, I don't know, but whatever it is, it's so true. And whenever I'm fearful, I think about that. I'm like, yeah, what am I worrying about? Everything you're worrying about, it's not real. It's something that you're imagining. You're imagining a scenario either in the future or you're picturing a scenario from the past that you can't control. Both are things that you have absolutely no control over. So worrying about it, I mean, I'm saying this to myself too, by the way. Like, I'm saying it. It's a waste of time. So you can either do that and suffer, or you can decide that, you know what, even if it doesn't work out, or even if something happens and I'm sad, even if this person dies, which obviously it's not easy, but like people are going to die. You're going to lose people in your life. It's going to happen. You're going to go through breakups. Something is always going to be a challenge. So instead of being afraid of the challenge, just facing it, accepting it for what it is, and then learning how to cope with it, really, and how to deal with it, and how to push on in spite of the things that are hard. I think honestly that's what we're here to do, is to learn how to do that. And then once we learn it, to help each other do it. Yeah. Because it's hard. I mean, life is hard, but it can also be so, so, so beautiful and rewarding and exciting if you let it be. But you have to take those leaps of faith for it to be the adventure that it really can be. If you just sit at home in your comfort zone, it's not going to be that interesting.
No, exactly.
You might as well just make it interesting.
Yeah. We like that. I like that. Well, I love it. And I could talk to you forever. But thank you so, so much for being on my podcast. It's been such an amazing conversation. I absolutely adore your music. So I'm very happy. And thank you for saying yes to me, because it's really exciting for me to have you on.
Well, thank you. As soon as I saw your handle, Intuition Queen, I was like, yes, I will do that podcast. I love talking about this kind of stuff as much as I love making music. And, I just hope that like one person who sees or hears this feels a little bit better or empowered or something. Like if that is the case, then worth it. I would do it 100 times over again. So thank you so much for having me and for asking.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh my God, what an amazing episode. I so love this girl, and I hope you love it and you love her too. If you want to listen to Lindsey's music, Rayelle or Olly Anna, just go to the links that she gave you, and follow her on Instagram. She's such an amazing and powerful woman. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, do leave us some stars and let us know which one of the 3 personas you like. And also, please don't forget to sign up to the podcast. And if you want to learn when new episodes come up, please go to my website, sign up to this to the newsletter. And you can also find all of my offers there, and you can also learn a little bit more about me. And you can follow me on Instagram as the Intuition Queen. And I forgot to say, the website is www.theintuitionqueen.com. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you next week.
Your future's at the door.